Hi,
Hi,
Gina.
Rana.
How are you?
How are you?
Very good to see you again.
So good to see you again. I'm glad you're chairing our session.
Yeah, glad to see you here. Hi, Kenny.
Hi.
How are you?
Sorry, I have to look to the side to see you because
Okay.
my presentation's in front of me.
Okay. Our second presentation, I think they're not going to be joining us. I think that the first author is sick. So I'm just going to show their video, but we'll wait for people to show up and then we can start.
And so how long is their video? Just so we know.
Let me see. It was supposed to be here 15 minutes. Oh, he's here. I think they were able to make it.
Okay. So we have 15 minutes plus 5 minutes for questions.
Yes, so 15 minutes, 5 minutes, then 15-minute second presentation, and at the end we'll have another 5 minutes for questions for everyone.
Okay. We'll try.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Lowe.
We might have like
Awesome.
2 minutes for questions.
Hello, Riza.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for helping me to show the video later on.
Oh, no problem at all. I have the video here, so no problem at all.
Thank you so much.
Is it storming there, Kenny? Is there
Yeah, it's pretty. It's quite a bit of thunder happening behind me.
Oh. I was gonna come on campus and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it from home. I didn't want to drive. I drove all like weekend. I was in Long Island for a conference. So I'm like, okay. Is it pretty in Albany, Reza, or is it storming there?
It's pretty good. There was raining yesterday and the day before, but today it's just cloudy. We didn't have any storms. Have you had the storms for the whole weekend there?
Just I'm in Rockland, so I'm a little away from the city, and yesterday and today.
Yeah. How are things in Singapore, Dr. Han?
Yeah, it's nighttime.
Yeah.
It's 11 p.m. now. But in the daytime, it's very sunny now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be sharing my screen. Do you need
Okay.
to be a co-host
Yes.
or okay?
Let me make you co-host. So you'll be the one who presented, right? Then I'll just we can start simultaneously. Let me co-host. Make co-host. Okay, you're co-host now. Gina, do you need co-hosting privileges as well or not?
I don't. I think I'm okay, right, Kenny? You'll switch the slides for me.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds good.
That was a great start for the conference.
Yeah.
It's a great keynote.
It was really good.
It's
Yeah.
nice to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
He's the person you want to hear this about.
Yeah,
That is the truth.
and he talked a lot about what we're going to cover in this session. Just in a slightly different way.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put my timer on so that
Thank you.
go
And
over.
Gina, we need to talk soon.
Okay.
Figure out our plan for getting our survey out.
Yep, absolutely.
Are
You
you
just
gonna
tell me.
campus this week?
Yeah, I don't know. This week maybe not. I might be in the morning, so like 9 each morning. Yeah.
I'll be out until noon tomorrow, so maybe tomorrow afternoon we can connect.
Awesome. Awesome. Just send me a Zoom. Tomorrow afternoon I'll be home, but send me a Zoom.
While you're waiting, our sponsor for the session is Extron, but they do not have a video. So I'm just going to share their link here and everyone can click on it for the information.
Nobody's going to see the link because
Oh,
you have to enter it after they join.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. I'll repeat it then once
Posted a
again.
few times.
Yes.
Extron was super good yesterday. They came
Yeah.
to our free conference and they were super good. They have a lot of really neat tools. I want to like change all my language because of what they said. They were a super good presenter. So
Yeah.
bravo, Extron, if you are listening to this. I learned, Kenny, if we had funding, we could buy all of the different things.
Well, it'd be nice.
Yeah, right. I just need we just need unlimited budgets and then we're good.
Well, Lehman did it. We can do it.
Oh yeah.
Next time they ask around in CUNY what they want to buy.
Right. I'm like, oh, I can
Yeah.
tell you like already, like I've got some steel case products. I've got some-
Well, we already use Extron quite a bit throughout CUNY, so it's just a
Yes.
matter of getting the money to pay
Yeah.
for some more of it.
Yeah, the presenter was so interesting yesterday too, right? He was the guy that was like, who's like a former stage manager for like Bon Jovi and something else. Like he was awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right? You can see like the entertainment ed tech tie-in.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, isn't education all about entertainment?
Yeah.
Got to keep those students entertained and engaged.
Especially in late evening classes, like all our classes are from 4 to 7, because most of our students are teachers. So like it is important to like keep them awake.
Yeah.
Ours too. We even have 7:10 to 9:40 classes.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
you're like, all right, let's go.
And they've already worked a full day before that, and I feel bad for them, but here they are in
True.
their class.
Especially when they're online and it's just a black square.
Yeah,
You gotta definitely figure out what's gonna work to
Right.
entertain and engage.
yeah. Are they taking a nap or where are they?
I'm the one that like writes in the syllabus, cameras are required, and if you don't, like,
It's important, honestly, to just like at least see them, like see who's in the class. It just adds to like the component of the class, like the social presence of the class.
Mhm.
it really does.
Does our session have a title or like a theme? I didn't see anything, but
Well, our session is called Strategies to Mitigate the Challenges of High
Yes.
Flex Instruction.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the title is of this second one.
yeah, no, I have the title, just thought that maybe the whole session might have a theme, but yeah,
I don't know. I didn't realize that there were going to be more than one session
mhm.
per time slot. That might have been a last minute thing. I'm not sure.
So there are 2 presentations for each session, and there are 4 concurrent sessions running right now.
So it looks like the second session is about student engagement, which is also
Yes.
part of what we talk about.
Yeah. We'll wait 2 more minutes and then we can get started.
I guess strategies. High flex strategies is the theme.
Yes.
Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming.
Yes.
And I've got my timer on, Reza.
Awesome, thank you. So Gina, will the new people who join see the link that you shared, or do we share it again?
Yes,
I'm
I'm
not sure how Zoom works
share.
about that.
Yep, I'm gonna reshare. So I'll just keep
Okay.
resharing that. Our sponsor today is Extron.
Mhm.
And I will reshare their link. They're an awesome company. They did so great yesterday at the pre-conference.
Thank you, Gina. So it's 11:15. So we're gonna start the session. Thanks so much for joining our session this morning. My name is Reza Faizi. I'm a faculty member, School of Education, University of Albany here in the US. And today we have two presentations. The first one is called Strategies to Mitigate the Challenges of HyFlex. The authors are Dr. Kenny Hirschman and Dr. Gina Riley from Hunter College from CUNY. And our second presentation is called HyFlex Learning Engaging Students by Dr. Lo Jin Hin and Dr. Shirley Tan from Temasek Polytechnic from Singapore. So thanks again for joining. I hope everyone's doing well. And with no further ado, I'll give this floor to Dr. Hirschman.
Thank you. So my name is Kenny Hirschman, and I'm here with Dr. Gina Riley. We're both from CUNY Hunter College in New York City. Let me get the presentation shared. Okay. So we're here to talk about the various kinds of challenges that instructors face when engaging with HyFlex instruction and what sort of strategies they employ to deal with this. The research that Dr. Riley and I have done is based at this point primarily on a literature review and anecdotal evidence. The limitations of literature, of course, is that there's a very small pool of available literature to look at. And because of that, there's a lack of generalizability. But we are currently engaged in our own research to hopefully enhance what's already there. So as probably all of you know already, what is HyFlex? HyFlex stands for hybrid flexible. It's a multimodal approach where you are teaching both in person and online, and that can consist of online synchronous and online asynchronous. So it may be all three, or it could be a combination thereof. It also generally includes a flexible participation policy for students in which they get to choose on a week-by-week basis how they want to participate, whether that's online or in person, and synchronous or asynchronous. There are many benefits to this approach. Learning can happen anywhere. You're not bound by geography or situation and context. It provides choice and personalization in learning, something that is really important in the self-directed learning literature. And it easily aligns with principles of universal design for learning in that it provides different ways to access the material. It provides different ways to engage with material, different ways of representing, and therefore, for some people, it will provide them with an approach that's much more conducive for their own learning. But, and that's a big but, there are many challenges involved. And I'd love if each of you can go to this site, slido.com, enter in this number 389-6889, and respond to this prompt in 3 words or less. What are the challenges that you have encountered or would you expect to see in HyFlex instruction? So I'll give you a moment to go to that site and add your thoughts, and then we can take a look and see what comes up for you. And now a lot of this has already been discussed by Brian Beatty in the last session, that there are many challenges that are still faced in HyFlex instruction, but what those challenges are, the extent of those challenges and the extent of the strategies that are involved has yet to be uncovered in total. And that's what Dr. Riley and I are really engaged in learning about through our research. So let's take a look and see what's there so far. Oops. Let's see, why is that not working? Should be working. Let's try it again. All right, for some reason, this slide does not want to work, but we can see it right here. So we have a number of different things here: faculty motivation, student engagement, that's huge. Apparently that is a very popular one. Classroom management, engaging online students, engaging remote students. So in various forms, engagement seems to be coming up multiple times. Faculty buy-in, that's a huge one where we work. A lot of faculty just have no interest in engaging in HyFlex learning because they see it as something that requires a tremendous amount of time and skill to engage in, and they're not wrong, as we know. But it requires sort of a sense of an enterprising sense in order to want to get involved in this, as we know. Computer access, hardware, workload and time, digital access. There's everything that you're adding here right now is something that we've identified and showcases that there's a multitude of challenges involved. So let's take a look at how we've started to classify this. And Gina, you want to take it from here?
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So the major challenges that Kenny and I have identified to HyFlex instruction are physical and virtual space, tech challenges, pedagogical challenges, as well as student challenges. And as you all have mentioned, one of those challenges is engagement. So when we're talking about physical and virtual space, the challenges identified have been classroom size and layout of the classroom, acoustics or background noise. Again, when you have students online, you have students in person, there's a lot of navigation that goes with that. There might not be adequate lighting in your classroom. Virtual representation in your classroom versus virtual participant location, right? What does their virtual space look like? How does that affect their participation in class? You might also encounter limitations with your learning management system. And all learning management systems, no matter what the institution has chosen, does have some limitations.
And this is not a comprehensive list. This is a subset of what we found, only because we have limited time. But just so you know, there is a lot more to it than this.
Absolutely. In terms of technology challenges, there is the availability of appropriate technology. Do you have enough technology to run a successful HyFlex class? There might be audio quality challenges, either through internet connection or not. The telepresence of virtual students. How are they, quote unquote, showing up to class, and what does that look like? There's also a learning curve that comes along with technology, whether you are in a high-tech classroom or a lower-tech classroom with maybe just a camera or tripod. There is always challenges in terms of small group work and technology and engaging all students, both in person and online. And there may be challenges with regards to asynchronous tools used. The pedagogical challenges are most interesting to me as faculty. There might be challenges in group interaction. How do you get everyone, online or in person, to interact equally? There might be divided in attention on behalf of the instructor. There is a lot to navigate if you are an instructor teaching in HyFlex. Student engagement is a challenge. How do we create a classroom culture where all our students, both in person and online, are engaged? In some places, instructor workload might be a challenge, and that's a specific issue. A lot of people say HyFlex takes more work. And then there's the cognitive overload of having to deal with the technology, the audio, the video, as well as your in-person students. finally, there are student challenges. Just like we as instructors have to work with students who are both online and in person, the student also has to attend to students who are both online and in person, and that might be a challenge to some. There's also in any online component of class a self-management challenge. How do students time manage? How do students organize themselves? How do they even decide what modality they would like to attend in? Student-to-student collaboration and communication might be a challenge, especially because we're talking with students in multiple modalities, right? So someone might not have internet access, or internet access might be sketchy. Sometimes online students can't hear in-person students, and vice versa. And then there's also the instructor proficiency. If an instructor has never taught HyFlex before, everyone is a beginner sometime, right? But it might also affect the classroom experience. So in terms of strategies to mitigate, and Kenny, feel free to jump on here too, we do want instructors to start planning early. It's also really important. I do not know what I would do as a faculty member without our Frankfurt Center, without Kenny and his team. He has been so incredible in supporting me as a HyFlex instructor. So consultation with an instructional designer and technologist is really important. In terms of designing a HyFlex course, I've always felt, and I think that literature supports this, that it's really important to design your asynchronous version of the course first, because everything comes out of there. Your content, your readings, your lectures, it all flows out from your asynchronous place. And then you also always want to apply UDL principles for teaching and learning, because that gives everybody an equitable experience and is actually one of the biggest benefits of HyFlex. You want to view the classroom in advance. You want to know the environment that you are teaching in and sort of how to mitigate any of those physical challenges. And this includes like thinking about seating arrangement, getting to know the available support around you, participating in PDs or trainings. And there are a lot of free or low cost ones, participating in HyFlex Collaborative or HyFlex Learning Collaborative conferences. You just want to keep it simple and you want to make do with what you have.
Sometimes that's all you can do.
Yes, yes, yes. In terms of instruction, clear directions, be clear, be consistent, be comprehensive. Define to your students what HyFlex is. I do a lot of like introduction to HyFlex in my first class. I have students read about HyFlex. You want to set clear expectations for participation as well as for support. And you want to engage all students equitably. So your online students, your in-person students should all have a very similar or the same experience, except for mode of instruction. And everyone's like, is that possible? And yes, I've been teaching HyFlex for many years now, and it absolutely is possible.
So we are currently engaged in some research. We have a faculty survey that has recently been approved by our IRB. We've received permission from several CUNY campuses to administer this survey. So we are in the process right now of trying to get this survey into the hands of faculty that taught HyFlex in this past semester, so that we can get a sense of, do the challenges that people face on the ground match what we found in the literature and what our anecdotal experience suggests? And then are there strategies similar to what we would expect, or have they developed some of their own strategies that perhaps are more unique and more suited to their specific environment? So we're curious about what information that's going to reap. Hopefully we'll have results by the end of the summer. And then beyond that, we're interested also in learning what students think and how students adapt to this sort of process, this learning process. And from these two, perhaps begin to establish some best practices. I saw that there is a new book that Brian Beatty had mentioned in his keynote, which I think talks about both best practices and design principles. And so there is some research happening currently in this area, but we want to see how can we add to that. And then what are some of the other applications that we might be able to look at for HyFlex learning, perhaps outside of the traditional classroom experience. And some of our references. And that's our presentation.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And I've also put our article on this in the chat if you'd like to access it. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Kenny and Gina, for a great presentation and very helpful to learn about student engagement in HyFlex learning. I also am very much looking forward to learning more about your research and what you find at the end of the summer. That'll be very interesting. So we'll have 5 minutes for questions and answers. So if you could please either put your questions in the chat and I can read them, or you could unmute and ask your questions.
I love no questions, but really,
Right.
truly, if you do want to learn more, Kenny and I both have PDFs of our article. Feel free to access it from LearnTech.lib. But we're so excited to talk more about this and to share with you the challenges as well as the mitigation of HyFlex.
Absolutely. And there'll be some more time at the very end if anybody thinks of any questions as during the next presentation.
Sure.
There
So
is
one question says, what kind of training do your faculty go through before teaching in HyFlex?
That's a good question. We only have a very small number of faculty in the School of Education that are doing HyFlex, which is where we work. I think at Hunter at large and throughout CUNY, even within the School of Education, there's no consistent, we don't have a training program. It's so new and it's so small scale at this point that there's nothing formal that we've engaged in. But in terms of the support that we provide, it's available to any of the faculty that are teaching HyFlex or any other mode of instruction, as long as they're interested in using it. I'm not sure that it's necessarily being taken advantage of as much as it could be.
We've had through Kenny and through our Teaching and Learning Center, we've had community conversations that I think have been helpful. I've hosted those. I'll show you a sample of those. And all of us are able to join Brian Beattie's HyFlex learning community. And that has been a really helpful resource in terms of learning more about HyFlex. So Kenny is very humble, but Kenny also always teaches us a lot, does one-on-one support pretty much every day, and I've pretty much utilized it so much. So we do have a lot of support. And Kenny, you can ask about the requirements for faculty training.
At this point, no, we don't have any specific requirements for faculty training. Again, it's very complicated here because we have many layers. We're in the School of Education, within a college, within a greater university. And so there's many rules that happen on different levels. To my knowledge, there's no specific requirements across CUNY or within Hunter College. Within the School of Education, again, as I said, it's very small scale. So no, there hasn't been any requirements that have been decided at this point. I think we're sort of still piloting and experimenting. And the people that are involved are all very experienced educators that have done both online and in-person teaching quite a bit. So they're pretty adept at figuring these things out and using the resources that are available to them.
Yeah, and I know we have just 30 seconds, but I also want to say that Jerry Rivera Wilson and I will be having a professional development summer course on HyFlex for K-12 educators, but of course, higher education faculty are also welcome to attend. So we will be co-teaching that course, and I just put the link in chat.
And Gina has also been doing quite a bit of professional development for the community, and developed a whole website for the entire CUNY University on HyFlex.
Forgot about that. I'll link on the chat.
Thanks so much, both of you, Kenny and Jean. If you could link that training that you have created, that would be great. So we're gonna move to our second presentation, and the second presentation is titled HyFlex Learning Engaging Students by Dr. Lo Jin Hin and Dr. Shirley Tan from Temasek Polytechnic from Singapore. Dr. Hin, if there's anything that you want to add in the beginning, if not, I will show your video for the presentation.
Yes, please help me to do so. Thanks, Visa.
Sure. So I'm going to play the presentation. If there's any problem with the audio, please type in the chat so I can get it fixed. I'm trying to share the screen.
Greetings from Singapore. Our presentation focuses on a pilot study that we carried out on HyFlex and student engagement. A bit more about us. Shirley is a staff developer, while I am a deputy director, also an academic staff from one of the schools in Temasek Polytechnic. A little about Singapore. Singapore is a city-state located in Southeast Asia, just below the tip of West Malaysia. This picture shows the beautiful skyline of the Marina Bay Sands and the Esplanade Theatre on the left-hand side, and many skyscrapers in the CBD area on the right-hand side. Singapore is a country with high internet connectivity. About Temasek Poly, or TP. TP is a post-secondary academic institution located in Tampines, Singapore. It is the third polytechnic established in the country. Temasek Polytechnic has an industry-focused curriculum, which is an alternative to a broader-based junior college and pre-university education. Temasek Polytechnic features 37 full-time and more than 40 part-time diploma courses spread over 6 academic schools. Currently, Temasek Polytechnic has approximately over 13,000 full-time students and more than 1,200 academic and administrative staff. There are many recreation and sports facilities in TP, as shown in this picture and next. Right, now we get back to our presentation, how it all started. Some of us in the school collaborate closely with staff developers like Shirley, and we have been experimenting with EdTech tools and hybrid learning. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck Singapore in 2020, school had to pivot to online home-based learning, or HBL, and subsequently, some of us employed HyFlex learning during the reopening phases when COVID cases were better managed in Singapore. Within Temasek Polytechnic, during the opening phases of post-COVID period, schools had to comply with safe management measures. We had to limit the number of students on campus in order to mitigate the risk of mass COVID transmission. Many of us did what we could for our students. Today's presentation is also our way of saying thank you to all teaching staff who tried their best for their students during the COVID pandemic and beyond. What is HyFlex learning? It is really about catering more flexibility in the mode of participation for learners. A HyFlex session is attended by both online and remote learners. Pre-COVID, our team conducted a pilot study on HyFlex learning in the October 2020 semester. The insights and experiences learned from the pilot use cases helped propel a full-scale HyFlex learning in my school, since the April 2021 semester. As Singapore continues to recalibrate her safe management measures for reopening phases post-COVID-19 lockdown. Post-COVID, we continue to offer HyFlex because of the flexibility it offers learners. Now, students who cannot attend class physically can opt to join the class remotely. For the Polytechnic, it's also about being prepared for another pandemic and for business continuity reasons. Our HyFlex learning pilot in 2020 was the first reported use case in Temasek Polytechnic. Our team employed innovation strategies to pivot the school's teaching and learning practices with active and sustained hybrid class engagement during the COVID-19 pandemic, while fostering strong buy-in from academic staff and learners. The project was part of our school's digital transformation, and with positive feedback from stakeholders, this has led to further investment of higher technology to enhance the experience. In terms of strategies and capabilities, the beauty of HyFlex learning implementation is that it can be executed either using higher technology or simple technology, making this pedagogy readily adaptable and scalable in all learning environments in the Polytechnic. In terms of resources and processes, the HyFlex learning was implemented in a way that any learner could learn together, anywhere, anytime, quarantine or not. Our school engaged academic staff to make adoption of HyFlex simple and fast-free while respecting the autonomy of academic staff in his or her classroom. Post-COVID, when learners need to stay at home due to respiratory-related symptoms and other reasons, if they wish to, they could join a HyFlex class remotely. The HyFlex learning in our faculty promoted the practice of fair engagement of both on-site and remote learners who attended the same hybrid class. Social and cognitive engagement had to be carefully crafted at lesson planning stage as well. During class, for example, we learned not to neglect remote learners. They would give us thumbs up or like to inform us that they can follow the discussion. We also cater whole of class activities through discussion chat and EdTech tools such as ClassPoint, Padlet, etc. This picture on the left-hand side shows a colleague in a simple HyFlex configuration using a wireless earpiece conducting his HyFlex class via Microsoft Teams. While the picture on the right-hand side showing me in another pilot HyFlex configuration where there is a smart board, a student gallery wall featuring remote learners. The HyFlex pilot study would like to find out more about student engagement in the HyFlex learning environment in Temasek Polytechnic. Next, I'll pass the time to my presenter, Shirley, to share more about the pilot studies. Over to you, Shirley.
Thank you, Jinhin. I'll now share a little about our student engagement pilot study, which was conducted in the October 2020 semester. Unbeknownst to the team, the insights and experiences learned from this particular pilot study helped to propel a full-scale HyFlex learning within the School of Applied Science at Temasek Polytechnic, which was really useful when COVID hit us. I'll share a bit more about the instrument that we use in the first part of our pilot study. This is the Birch Engagement Survey tool. Well, first up is the emotional engagement. It encompasses both positive and negative reactions to teachers, classmates, academics, and schools, and is presumed to create ties to an institution and influence willingness to work. It refers to students' affective reactions in the classroom, including interest, boredom, happiness, sadness, and anxiety. Next up is physical engagement. This relates to the extent to which people expend their efforts, both physically and mentally, as they go about their work. Lastly, cognitive engagement. While it draws from the idea of investment, it incorporates thoughtfulness and willingness to exert the effort necessary to comprehend complex ideas and master difficult skills. There are two parts to this pilot study. Part 1 collected data about students' HyFlex learning. This was done at 2 points. Firstly, at the midpoint of the HyFlex learning experience, and then 2, at the end of the HyFlex learning experience. The total number of participants for this particular study was 26. And the part 2 of this study, which was the focus group, a total number of 8 participants was involved in this part of the study. This is to glean a more in-depth understanding of the student engagement construct that we had done in part 1 of the study. Now over to the part 1 of the student engagement study, which was the quantitative part where 2 parts of the surveys were done. As I explained earlier, the one here, PE1, which is the midpoint of the HyFlex learning experience. Some of you may ask why at midpoint, because we wanted to wait for people to be more familiar with the HyFlex learning environment before we collected the data. Hence, we have PE1, which represents physical engagement 1, and PE2, which is the second survey at the end of the HyFlex learning exposure. So similarly, emotional engagement for EE1 and emotional engagement EE2, which is the second survey. And cognitive engagement, we have CE F2F, that means face-to-face first survey, followed by the second survey. Okay, assumingly this is a rather small view, so I will expand this view for you. As you can see here, the physical engagement. In the second instance, it had gone up a little. Emotional engagement as well. And all of the 3 variables, you can see that the mean score actually went up. And for the cognitive engagement, we have face-to-face as well as the HBL, which is the home-based learning part of HyFlex. Okay, we can see that there's also a rise in there. So that is our quantitative part of the study. And we go to the part 2 of the study, which is the qualitative component. And this is what we have found out. 5 key themes that came out from this particular focus group interview. And they are challenges and benefits in HyFlex learning, social interaction, technical challenges, learning strategies, self-regulation. So we'll look at it in a bit detail. So here's the slide on challenges. The students found that it was hard to work around the newfound freedom where they need to monitor their own learning. So most students recognize that the online part of HyFlex learning needed different strategies, but they were quite uncertain about the right strategies to use. They also couldn't articulate what they don't know, claiming that it was hard for them to speak up, especially when they are dialing in from home. Some were also afraid of speaking up online. They also had to straddle between the face-to-face and online classes, which brought about a bit of confusion, as stated by student E here. Some benefits. Most students like the flexibility in HyFlex learning. Most of the HyFlex learning sessions were recorded, so they found that it was very easy to review the lessons. In the home-based part of HyFlex learning, they also like the fact that they can get up late and yet be on time for class. Social interaction. Students found that in the face-to-face aspect of HyFlex learning, it was relatively easier for them to connect with their fellow classmates as well as their lecturers. And student S mentioned that face-to-face makes me feel more of a sense of belonging. And student E mentioned that face-to-face session in the HyFlex learning, the concentration level was a lot higher because there's this atmosphere where everyone is paying attention. And then there's also, it gives a bit of peer pressure. And then the next student also mentioned that for online aspects of HyFlex learning, you're just staring at a screen, then there's not much interaction between the teacher and student. So it's like something different about human-to-human interaction. Okay, that was from the students. So technical challenges, they were unfamiliar with the platform. When we first started, we were using the WebEx platform, so most people were unfamiliar with it. Moreover, there were some technical issues such as frozen screen while the lecturer was talking, and it made following the class very difficult. When the home Wi-Fi was weak, the experience was really bad for the students. In some instances, some students were unable to see the lecturer's slides during the session. So we also found that there were some students with hardware issues on top of weak Wi-Fi. Learning strategies. Students realized that different approaches were needed in the two formats of HyFlex learning. Taking notes, hear discussion, and asking lecturers questions were the key learning strategies they applied in the face-to-face HyFlex learning environment. However, these strategies were not easily transferred to the online aspect of HyFlex learning. So the student found that it was difficult to keep up with their old routine within the online environment. Lastly, self-regulation. Students found that they procrastinated a lot in the online aspect of HyFlex learning. They found that they were easily distracted and they did not find the urgency of learning, as the recorded sessions would always be there for them. They were also not sure of what kind of learning strategies to use in order to help them persist in their learning. Some of the students tried out new learning strategies, others used old strategies that work well in the face-to-face HyFlex environment, but did not work well within the online HyFlex environment. We come to the findings. Students were generally well engaged in the HyFlex learning environment. We noted that persistence and effort maintained in learning were considerably high. Hence, it showed that there was a fair amount of motivation for learning. We also noted that cognitive engagement was significantly higher in the face-to-face environment within the HyFlex learning mode compared to the online mode. Overall, students found that there were opportunities for them to engage with peers and lecturers. Lastly, we found that students do not automatically know how to learn in this fairly new environment, especially within the online aspects of HyFlex learning.
Thanks so much for the great presentation, Dr. Lo Jin-hin and Dr. Shirley Tai. So we have 3 minutes for questions and answers, and you can either put the questions in the chat or you can unmute and ask the questions. Thank you.
As you are thinking of your question, I just want to convey that Shirley sends her apology. She's recovering from a surgery and she's not able to join us today. So hopefully the presentations would have sort of convey what she wanted to share with all of you. Yeah.
Thank you. Hopefully she's feeling better.
Yeah. Thank you.
While we're waiting for more questions, maybe I can ask a quick question. So the Birch emotion engagement survey, it measured both positive and negative emotions like anxiety and happiness and everything. What kind of emotions did you see in the students? Because I saw that the graph had like one number. So how did it aggregate positive and negative emotions?
Yeah, I think from the instrument itself, it asks the positive and negative emotions, and then it aggregate into a score. So basically, what we wanted to see that is over time, does that score increase? That score increase show us that they are generally happy. They are happy to be involved. They are not as anxious as before. And I think with that, we thought that the focus group interview that we conducted would uncover more from what the students might want to say to us. Actually, most of them are pretty okay with the HyFlex experience. But what we found out more is that during that period where there's lockdown and limited social interactions with their peers, and they felt a little lonely, and they also didn't quite like the fact that they don't talk with their lecturer, their teacher as much. So I mean, we were quite surprised that they like to talk with us. So we are happy, and therefore you know, we try to promote that social interactions among the peers and between the students and staff. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that they were so open with you. Like the responses were very open and honest, and I really appreciated that about the study.
Thank you.
I think we only have like a few seconds left from the session, or it's 12 o'clock. So I want to thank everyone for coming to this session. I want to thank also the presenters for this session. It was very helpful and informative, and we learned a lot. So from here on, I think the next session is the lunch and learn, and I invite everyone to join that session. And our sponsor for this session was Extron. I want to thank them very much for this. Have a good rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll see you in the next sessions. Bye.
Bye-bye.